Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. This is a channel where we often talk about albums of the classic rock age, things from the 50s to the 70s. But today I decided I wanted to try out a contemporary artist, having heard some friends recently talk about her, and she's a name that comes up a lot. It is, of course, Billie Eilish, and we are talking about her debut, Don't Smile at Me. Technically, I'm not allowed to call this the debut album because it is an EP. This is something that drives me crazy when going through artists' work on Wikipedia. It'll say, this is the 5th album by them, but they'll have like a million mixtapes. And I mean, EPs can be fairly short, but this one is 8 tracks. This is a flippin' album. It's a short album, but like, honestly, for me, if you have like an official count of albums, just count everything that's more than a single and that's released with cover art. Like it's a silly difference. So this is just my gripe with Wikipedia. But anyway, this is Billie Eilish's debut record. It's called Don't Smile at Me. And yeah, I've been interested in her for a while. I think I first heard of her in a friend's cynical Instagram story. He went, ugh, Billie Eilish is just the Smiths for Gen Z. But I like the Smiths, so I was intrigued. I don't generally listen to contemporary music, but if she's like the Smiths, that might be worth a try. She's also one of the few contemporary artists who's regularly championed by the popular music YouTuber Rick Beato, who's a music professor, music producer. So I thought, okay, this might be something interesting to look into. At the same time, the little bit I have heard of Billie Eilish, it hasn't worked for me. I guess mainly I've heard the song Bad Guy. And A, I'm not a fan of the not very melodic backing music. And B, I find it weird how quietly she sings. Like, as far as I know, singing is really her only instrument. So you'd think if you're listening to her, you'd want to hear the voice. So I don't know why her voice was being suppressed by the music. But people really like her. So I thought maybe I had a bad impression based on this one popular song. And that was kind of right. I very much enjoyed listening to Don't Smile at Me. And I'm going to quickly talk about the experience of listening to those 8 tracks. So the album starts with a song called Copycat. And when I heard it, it instantly reminded me of the jazz standard Fever. That's a song that's generally performed with just a double bass playing a very minimalist backing music and the jazz singing. And this felt like that with modern production. The one thing I thought that was kind of weird about it is Billie Eilish sings with this kind of James Bond-y cool. And I guess she would later go on to do a James Bond theme song. But yet the song's theme seems to be a very juvenile jealousy thing. Like, don't be a copycat. I mean, I think she was 15 years old when she recorded this record, but I feel like being concerned with people being copycats, that's more of a grade school thing. So don't know why her mind was there, and it felt like a mismatch with the song, but it was certainly a cool sounding song. Again, bringing Fever into the pop age. The next track is called I Don't Want to Be You Anymore. Those words are all meshed together, and I wondered what's the deal with this gimmick, but it actually made perfect sense because there's this beautiful melodic chorus where she indeed strings those words together, and not in a way where she's swallowing the words, but where she's putting true emotion into their meaning. And again, I felt like this one had real jazz vibes to it. Track 3 also continued to have jazz vibes to it, and it's called My Boy. And again, I felt like there was this interesting contrast between jazz, which one thinks of, as old people music, but with the modernity of Billie Eilish's lyrics. She sings at one point, "My boy is being sus," not the kind of line you would expect to see in a jazz song. Beyond that, it feels like there's a lot of contradiction in this lyrics. I mean, the way she sings, my boy, it sounds affectionate, but she's largely complaining about how this boy is inadequate. She also talks about how he treats his friends like she treats her split ends, and I couldn't tell what she's saying there. Because if she's like a jealous, controlling person, she might like that he casts his friends out of his life, but maybe in this song she's singing as a healthier person who's like, no, I want a boyfriend who has a lot of friends. Track 4, this one is a real standout for me. It's called Watch. This one had another wonderfully sung chorus. So when I was listening to this album, I was, of course, looking out for Billie Eilish's darkness for that comparison to the Smiths. I do find it interesting that so far all of the darkness has come out kind of in relationship songs. So on the one hand, she's being edgy, but on the other hand, she's confining that edginess to the standard songwriting topic. One thing you notice when you pay attention to music, or even just as an ordinary person, it feels like a disproportionate amount of songs are love songs. And I don't quite get why that is, because yes, love is a huge part of the human life, but I mean, so many of our day-to-day experiences and frustrations are literally just trying to get in and out of relationships. I find it kind of weird that the music industry is calculated. That's the only relatable topic. But anyway, with Billie Eilish, we seem to get, on the one hand, sticking to that relatively safe topic a lot of the time, but bringing in edgy lyrics. In this case, she's describing a breakup by talking about watching a car burn. And it's hard to tell whether watching the car burn is a metaphor or she's picturing it more literally. I mean, if she's picturing it more literally, it's a pretty intense song, and I'm all there for that. Track 5, I really like this one as well. This one is called Party Favor. Again, it is a dark relationship song, but I find it cool that she's at least found lots of different contexts to do this with. So in the previous song, she was talking about watching an ex's car burn. And in this one, she's talking about getting mad at a bad partner on their birthday and maybe just casually calling the cops on them. I also like that, after all the hyper modern production up until now, here we get ukulele and xylophone, or, some sort of mallet instrument here. I feel like, I guess to my old fashioned ears, some of these songs, as great as her singing is, don't quite feel like song to me, because they're heavily rhythmic. You'll have Phineas, her co-songwriter, producer, and brother, sort of playing these repeating sounds on a synth, and then there's this awkward gap between them. But when they bring the ukulele onto this track, it has what to me sounds like a nicer melodic flow. Also, as far as the comparison with the Smiths goes, this song is great for that, because the Smiths have a song, "I Come to Wish You an Unhappy Birthday." Track number 6 is called Bellyache. And with this song, I begin to take back my criticism that she only confines herself to the relationship world. I mean, this song sort of has some relationship lyrics in it, but this one full on embraces the edginess. It sounds like a song about being a serial killer. One of the lyrics I liked is a reference to her mind being in the gutter, and she does some dark wordplay with that. But I also think it's interesting because in the gutter doesn't tend to mean morbid and wanting to kill people. It just means using crude or inappropriate language. So it suggests that, this dark side is a performance. It's teenage melodrama. So she's equating murderous darkness with just having a mind in the gutter. I thought that was a clever lyrical decision. Track number 7 is called Ocean Eyes. This one feels like a change of beat, whereas Bellyache was pretty much a straight dark song. Ocean Eyes is closer to a straight love song, and it's a vulnerable love song. It's not one sung with the confidence of the previous tracks. That said, it is still consistent with the theme of the rest of the record. If you pay attention enough to the lyrics, you realize there's this weird image about saying that someone has burning cities and napalm skies in their eyes. And that would be a dark image for a normal person. But with this song, she's almost saying, help me, I'm this really dark person who expresses images of color and beauty through these dark metaphors, but I really do love you. I really do need you. And then the last track involves a duet, I assume with Phineas, and some acoustic guitar playing. But despite the acoustic instrumentation, it has that weird pop rhythmic thing that I don't like so much. But lyrically, again, it felt like it had a good idea behind it. It kind of tied up the concept of the album. It's, again, pretty dark and twisted lyrics, but rather than being sung with confidence, this time it's Eilish, or Eilish's character, trying to rationalize this to her partner, making these dark things sound beautiful or reasonable or even loving, even though they really, really don't sound that way. So overall, I had a good experience listening to this record, enough for me to want to listen to what counts as her first album, in my opinion, her second album, but whatever. When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? This one continued some of the choices from Don't Smile at Me, but I think it took them a bit too far for my old-fashioned tastes. A little bit on Don't Smile at Me, Phineas did a good job of making the songs flow into one another, and that really happens on When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? That album title is way too long. But anyway, I found with that second album, things melted into each other too much, and it was this permanent melancholy mood, and her singing did indeed get to be a bit quieter, and it really did become too much about sound effects, and it didn't sound enough to my old-fashioned ears, like music. That said, if you want a good pop record to delve into, if you feel like a crusty old boomer or Gen Xer, or in my case, old-fashioned millennial, this is the one to go for. because the songs have real personality. The singing is beautiful. It uses pop production, but not in a way that takes out the realness or energy from the vocals. So I was glad I gave Billie Eilish a try. She's not always going to work for me. Again, I wish she would project on more of her songs, but she certainly can. She certainly does on this first record. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.